The grand hall of the Earth Diplomatic Center sparkled with light that bounced off the crystal sculptures hanging from the ceiling. Diplomats from over 30 alien species mingled with humans, their various body shapes creating a living rainbow of colors and textures. Dr. Alan Wright stood at the edge of the gathering, watching with quiet pride. As head of Earth's diplomatic corps for the past 12 years, he had helped maintain the remarkable peace that humans had enjoyed since their entry into the galactic community. Tonight marked exactly 3,000 years since Earth signed the Confederation Treaty. 3,000 years without a single human casualty to war, Alan whispered to himself. It seemed almost unbelievable considering humanity's violent past. Dr. Wright, the Jokshan ambassador wishes to speak with you, said Samantha Miller, appearing at his side. Samantha had served as Alan's assistant for 5 years. Her sharp mind and attention to detail made her invaluable. Thank you, Sam. Is everything else running smoothly? Alan straightened his formal blue jacket with gold trim, the traditional outfit for human diplomats. Almost, Samantha replied, her voice dropping. I've noticed something odd in the communication patterns from the Selnar delegation. They've been sending encrypted messages at 3 times their normal rate. Alan's smile faded slightly. The Selnar were the most military-focused species in the Confederation. Standing nearly 8 feet tall with tough, gray skin and 4 arms, they had once ruled a third of the galaxy before the Confederation formed. They always get nervous during big gatherings, Alan said, but he noted the concern in Samantha's eyes. This is different. They've also repositioned 6 of their border fleets in the past week. Nothing that breaks any treaties, but unusual. Alan nodded. Keep monitoring. I'll speak with their ambassador later. For now, let's not disturb the celebration. As Alan made his way to the Jokshan ambassador, a floating display showed images from human colony worlds. 37 planets now held human settlements, a remarkable achievement for a species that had only reached the stars 3,000 years ago. Later that evening, after most guests had departed, Alan found himself alone on the observation deck. The sprawling metropolis of New Geneva spread below, its lights competing with the stars above. He activated his personal computer terminal. Computer, show me the Selnar fleet movements from the past month. The display filled with dots representing Selnar ships. Alan wasn't a military expert, but even he could see what had worried Samantha. The ships were forming patterns around several human colony systems. His wrist device buzzed. Dr. Wright, urgent message from Outpost Sentinel, said the automated voice. Accept, Alan replied. The worried face of a young man appeared. Dr. Wright, we've detected unusual energy readings from the direction of the Selnar homeworlds. Massive power spikes that don't match any known Confederation technology. Have you reported this to Defense Command? Alan asked. Yes, sir, but they said it's likely just preparation for the Selnar military exercises next month. Alan thought of Samantha's concerns. Send me all the data, and increase your monitoring. Report anything unusual directly to me, no matter how small. Yes, sir, the young man replied before the connection ended. Outside the window, a shooting star streaked across the sky. Humans once made wishes on such sights, Alan remembered. If he could make a wish now, it would be that his growing worry was unfounded. The next morning, Alan called Samantha to his office. I want you to quietly contact our people on every human world near Selnar space. Tell them to prepare emergency protocols, just in case. You think something's really wrong? Samantha asked. Alan stared at the star map on his wall, particularly at the blinking dots representing human colonies. Probably not. The Selnar have honored the peace for 3,000 years. But my grandfather used to say, peace isn't the natural state of the universe. It's something you must guard carefully. Samantha nodded and left to carry out his instructions. Alan turned back to the window. 3,000 years of peace had perhaps made humanity complacent. He hoped they hadn't forgotten how to face conflict. Admiral Lisa Johnson stood on the bridge of her command ship, the EDS Guardian. At 53, She had spent her entire career in Earth's defensive fleet, never once engaging in actual combat. The fleet existed mostly as a symbol and for handling minor security issues like space pirates or rescue operations. "Admiral, we've lost contact with outposts Delta, Echo, and Foxtrot. All three at the same time," reported her communications officer. Lisa frowned. The three outposts formed a line along the edge of human space nearest to Selnar territory. Could it be a communication system failure? Unlikely, ma'am. Each outpost uses separate systems. The chance of all failing simultaneously is almost zero. Lisa walked to the main display. "Send Captain Collins and the Dauntless to investigate. Tell him to approach with caution." 48 hours later, Jake Collins stood in Admiral Johnson's office. His face was pale, and his uniform was still dirty from the emergency evacuation. "They're gone, Admiral. All three outposts. Not damage, completely destroyed. We found debris fields where the stations should have been." Jake placed a data chip on her desk. "We recorded this before we had to run." The wall screen lit up with an image that made Lisa's blood run cold. 3 Selnar battleships, massive gray vessels bristling with weapons, were methodically firing on the remains of what had been a human science station. They saw the Dauntless and opened fire immediately. "No warning, no communication. We barely escaped," Jake said. Lisa pressed a button on her desk. "Get me Dr. Wright at the Diplomatic Corps immediately." At the NASA Deep Space Research Facility in Arizona, scientist Greg Murphy stared at his screen in confusion. For the past week, he had detected strange energy readings from the direction of Selnar space. Today, those readings had increased tenfold. His supervisor, Dr. Karen Ellis, looked over his shoulder. "What are we seeing, Greg?" "I'm not entirely sure. The pattern suggests massive power generation, more than anything in Confederation records." Greg pointed to specific spikes in the data. "These match weapons testing, but on a scale I'd never seen before." "Could your equipment be malfunctioning?" Karen asked. Greg shook his head. "I've checked everything 3 times. Whatever that Selnar are doing, they've been building it in secret for years." In New Geneva, Dr. Wright faced the Emergency Council of Earth's government leaders. Admiral Johnson's report had sent shockwaves through the peaceful human administration. 3 outposts destroyed, and we've now confirmed attacks on 2 colony worlds. Allen said grimly. "That Selnar have not responded to any communication attempts." "Why?" asked the council president. "After 3,000 years of peace, why attack now?" Before Allen could answer, all screens in the room flickered. The harsh face of a Selnar appeared, gray skin, 4 yellow eyes, and teeth like polished metal. "People of Earth, I am Supreme Commander Kraz Tull of the Selnar Dominion," the alien said in a deep, rumbling voice. "Your species has been tolerated long enough. Humans reproduce too quickly, innovate too dangerously, and spread too far. You represent an existential threat to Selnar supremacy." The room fell silent as the message continued. "The attacks you have witnessed are merely the first wave. The Selnar Dominion has unanimously voted for the complete removal of humanity from the galactic stage. Your colonies will fall one by one. Your homeworld will be reduced to ash." "This is insanity," Samantha whispered to Allen. "We've never threatened them." "Our existence threatens them," Allen replied quietly. "Our potential." On the screen, Kraz Tull continued. "We have prepared for this day for 500 years, building weapons beyond your comprehension. The other Confederation species have been reminded of their neutrality treaties. They cannot help you." The transmission ended abruptly. Admiral Johnson stood. "I have only 36 combat-ready ships. The Selnar fleet numbers in the thousands." The room erupted in panicked voices until Alan Wright raised his hand. "Contact Dr. Olivia Martinez at the Quantum Research Division," he said. "Tell her to dust off Project BM. It's time to see if her theories work in practice." Dr. Olivia Martinez lived in a world of equations and quantum possibilities. For 15 years, she had worked in her underground laboratory, pursuing a theory most of her colleagues considered impossible. Now, as Earth faced its greatest threat, she found herself explaining her work to the planet's top leaders. Project PM began as a study into the nature of matter itself, Olivia said, standing before a room of worried faces, specifically how atomic bonds can be influenced across vast distances. Admiral Johnson looked skeptical. "Doctor, we need weapons, not science lessons." "This is a weapon," Olivia replied calmly. "Just not the kind you're thinking of." She activated a holographic display showing complex molecular structures. "Everything in the universe vibrates at specific frequencies. My team discovered we can target those frequencies with extreme precision." Dr. Wright leaned forward. "And what happens when you target these frequencies?" "We can either strengthen bonds or dissolve them completely." Olivia pointed to a small device on the table. "This prototype can make steel crumble like sand or reinforce it to 10 times its normal strength. But it only works at short range." "How does this help us against an armada of Selmar warships?" asked Samantha. Olivia took a deep breath. "If we convert Earth's entire planetary defense grid to emit a precisely calibrated BAM pulse, we could potentially target every piece of Selnar technology across the galaxy simultaneously. Their ships, weapons, stations, all would simply fall apart." The room grew quiet as the implications sank in. "Is that even possible?" Admiral Johnson finally asked. "Theoretically, yes. Practically, we've never tested it at that scale." Olivia looked directly at Dr. Wright. "And there's a significant problem. Converting the defense grid would leave Earth defenseless for 72 hours. If the Selnar attack during that window, we have no way to fight back." Outside in space, the situation grew more desperate. Captain Jake Collins and his ship, the Dauntless, led a small fleet in a daring raid against a Selnar supply line. His tactical officer, Ben Rogers, monitored the enemy positions. "Captain, we've destroyed 3 of their cargo ships, but their battle group is closing in. 8 minutes until they're in firing range." Jake studied the tactical display. His 10 ships were fast but lightly armed. The approaching Selnar fleet included 5 heavy cruisers. "Send the cargo data to Earth and prepare to scatter," Jake ordered. "Set course for the Martian outposts. We'll regroup there." As the human ships fled, Jake received an encrypted message from Admiral Johnson explaining the BM project and the 72-hour vulnerability. "All ships must buy as much time as possible," the Admiral's message concluded. "Use any means necessary to slow the Selnar advance." Back on Earth, global screens broadcast another message from the Selnar Supreme Commander, Kraz Tull. His harsh voice filled homes and public spaces across the planet. "Humans of Earth, your minor victories are meaningless. Even now, our main battle fleet approaches your solar system. In 7 days, your world will burn. This is not war. This is extermination." The message triggered panic in many cities. Dr. Wright worked with world leaders to maintain order while Admiral Johnson repositioned her limited forces for Earth's defense. In her laboratory, Olivia Martinez supervised as engineers began dismantling the planetary defense grid. Each massive generator would need to be reconfigured to emit the BM pulse instead of its usual protective shield. "We need more time," one engineer told her. "Converting all 800 generators will take at least 5 days." "That Selnar will be here in 7, Olivia replied. "So we have 5 days to do 6 days of work." As night fell over the Earth, billions of people looked up at the stars, wondering if these were the last peaceful days of human existence. News stations reported the fall of 2 more colony worlds. The Selnar advance continued without pause. In space, Captain Collins prepared his crew for what might be a suicide mission. Their orders were simple: delay the Selnar at any cost. The EDS Dauntless drifted silently in the shadow of a large asteroid. Captain Jake Collins and his crew had powered down all but the most essential systems to avoid detection. Through the view screen, They watched as a massive Xelnar battle group passed by, heading toward Earth. "There are at least 200 ships," whispered Ben Rogers. "More than we expected." Jake nodded grimly. "Record everything and prepare to send the data back to Earth." He turned to his weapons officer. "Are the mines ready?" "Yes, sir. 20 high-yield explosives, positioned throughout the asteroid field." Jake checked the time. 4 days had passed since Earth began converting its defense grid. They needed to buy more time. "Wait until the last third of their fleet enters the field, then detonate all mines simultaneously," Jake ordered. "The moment they explode, power up engines and weapons. We'll hit them from behind while they're confused." The bridge crew worked in tense silence as the enormous Xelnar ships moved through the asteroid field. When the time came, Jake gave a simple nod. The mines detonated in a chain of massive explosions. Asteroids shattered into deadly shrapnel that tore through the hulls of dozens of Xelnar vessels. The Dauntless and its remaining 5 ships powered up and attacked, focusing their fire on engines and weapon systems. "We've disabled 18 ships," Ben reported, "but they're regrouping fast." "Begin withdrawal," Jake ordered. "Random jump patterns as planned." As the human ships scattered, each jumping in a different direction, Jake knew their attack would delay the Xelnar advance by only hours, not days. But every hour counted. On Earth, the conversion of the defense grid reached its halfway point. Olivia Martinez hadn't slept for 3 days. She moved from one installation to another, solving problems and pushing the work forward. Currently, she stood in the control center of the North American Defense Hub. "We've reconfigured the emitter arrays," reported engineer Paul Davis. His hands were dirty and his eyes were red from lack of sleep. "But the power flow is unstable. If we try to channel that much energy at once, the whole system might melt down." Olivia studied the diagrams on the screen. "We need to add regulator nodes here, and here," she said, pointing to specific points in the system, "and reinforce the main conduits with graphene shielding." Paul nodded. "That'll work, but it'll add 6 hours to the timeline." "Then we work faster on everything else," Olivia replied. "Get your best people on it immediately." At Earth's Lunar Command Base, Admiral Johnson received the latest reports from her scattered fleet. The news wasn't good. 3 more colony worlds had fallen. That Xelnar had split their forces, with the main fleet still heading toward Earth while smaller groups systematically destroyed human outposts. "We've lost contact with Captain Collins," a young officer reported. Lisa closed her eyes briefly. The Dauntless and its crew had been making hit-and-run attacks for days, drawing Xelnar ships away from Earth. Their sacrifice had saved countless lives. "Keep trying to reach them," she ordered, "and prepare the lunar defenses. We'll make our stand here while Earth completes the BAM system." In New Geneva, Dr. Wright and Samantha worked around the clock to coordinate with other species in the Confederation. Most refused direct communication, citing ancient neutrality treaties with the Xelnar, but a few sent coded messages with useful information. "The Zentari ambassador sent this star chart," Samantha said, displaying a map showing Xelnar fleet movements. "It's 3 hours more current than our best intelligence." "They're helping without officially helping," Allen said. "Send this to Admiral Johnson immediately." The entire solar system had become a war zone. Refugee ships from the outer colonies streamed toward Earth, many damaged by Xelnar attacks. Military vessels escorted them when possible, but there weren't enough ships to protect everyone. On the 5th day, Olivia Martinez called an emergency meeting with Earth's leaders. "The defense grid conversion is 80% complete," she reported. "But our sensors detect the main Xelnar fleet approaching Jupiter's orbit. They'll reach Earth in less than 24 hours. "And how much longer until the BAM system is ready?" Dr. Wright asked. Olivia looked at Paul Davis, who answered grimly, "At our current pace, 30 hours minimum." The room fell silent as everyone realized what this meant. The Xelnar would arrive before Earth's only defense was ready. Earth's leaders gathered in the emergency command bunker beneath New Geneva. The massive screens showed the approaching Xelnar fleet, now visible near Mars. Red warning symbols flashed as Earth's remaining defense ships moved into position. "We need a new plan," Admiral Johnson said through a video link from Lunar Command. "The Selnar will reach Earth in 18 hours. The BM system won't be ready for at least 24. Dr. Wright looked at Olivia Martinez. "Is there any way to speed up the conversion? We're already pushing the equipment and people beyond safe limits," Olivia replied. Her face showed extreme fatigue. "If we rush more, we risk complete system failure." Paul Davis, who had been quietly studying data on his tablet, suddenly looked up. "What if we don't need the entire grid?" All eyes turned to him. Paul cleared his throat nervously. The original plan was to convert all 800 generators for maximum power and coverage. But the math suggests we could achieve a successful BM pulse with just the 6 main hub generators. "Would it be strong enough?" Olivia asked. "It would be weaker, with shorter range," Paul explained. "Instead of affecting all Selnar technology across the galaxy, it would only reach ships within our solar system. But we could have it ready before they reach Earth." A murmur went through the room as people considered this option. "How long to convert just the 6 main hubs?" Dr. Wright asked. Paul calculated quickly. 14 hours if we redirect all teams." "Do it," ordered the Council President. "Admiral Johnson, your forces must hold the Selnar at Mars for at least 14 hours. The Admiral's face was grim. "With what we have left, that's asking for a miracle. But we'll try." As teams raced to implement the new plan, a surprising message arrived from deep space. It was Captain Jake Collins. "The Dauntless survived," Samantha announced excitedly. "They're damaged but operational, hiding in the rings of Saturn with 2 other ships." Jake's face appeared on screen, tired but determined. "We discovered something important. That Selnar command ships are more vulnerable than we thought. Their engines use a unique crystal matrix that overheats easily. A focused hit at the right spot can disable them temporarily." This information spread quickly to all remaining human ships. If they could disable the Selnar command vessels, it might slow their advance just enough. High above Mars, Admiral Johnson's forces engaged the front section of the Selnar fleet. Human ships darted between the massive alien vessels, targeting the engine weak points Jake had identified. Several Selnar command ships drifted out of formation, buying precious time. "It's working," Lisa told her bridge crew. "But they're adapting quickly. We won't fool them for long." On Earth, Olivia and Paul worked frantically at the primary hub in North America. The other 5 hubs around the planet reported similar progress. "Power alignment at 87%, Paul reported. "We're ahead of schedule." Suddenly, alarm sirens blared. A group of smaller Selnar ships had broken through the Mars defense line and was heading directly for Earth. "They must have figured out what we're doing," Olivia said. "They're targeting the defense hubs." The first attacks hit the Asian hub, damaging critical components. Soon after, the European hub reported Selnar ships entering the atmosphere above them. "We need more time," Paul said desperately. In orbit around Earth, the last line of human defense ships engaged the incoming Selnar vessels. Among them was the EDS Dauntless, its hull scarred from multiple battles. "Focus fire on those attack ships," Jake ordered. "We can't let them reach the surface." The space around Earth lit up with weapons fire. Human ships sacrificed themselves to block Selnar vessels from reaching the planet. The Dauntless took heavy damage but continued fighting. In the North American hub, Olivia received reports from the other centers. 4 hubs are still operational. The Asian hub is offline, and European is under direct attack. She looked at Paul. "Can we do it with just 4? Paul ran the calculations. "Yes, but the effect will be even more localized. And we'll have just 1 shot." Outside, they could hear the sound of distant explosions as Selnar ships began bombing nearby cities. Their time was running out. The skies above Earth burned with the light of battle. Hundreds of Selnar ships moved into position for the final attack on humanity's homeworld. In the command bunker, Dr. Wright, and other leaders watched with grim faces as their defenses crumbled. "The North American hub is our last fully functional site," Samantha reported. "The African hub is at 60% power and South American at 45%. European and Asian hubs are completely destroyed." Paul Davis looked up from his control panel. "The Australian hub just went offline. We're down to 3 partial systems." Olivia Martinez's fingers flew across her keyboard, making rapid adjustments. "I need to recalculate the entire frequency matrix. With only 3 hubs, the beam will be much weaker." On the main screen, Admiral Johnson's face appeared. Her command center on the moon shook as Selnar ships bombarded the lunar surface. "Lunar defenses have failed," she reported. "My remaining ships are falling back to Earth orbit. How much longer until the BAM is ready?" 30 minutes minimum," Olivia replied. "But I'm not certain it will work with just 3 hubs." "You'll have your 30 minutes, Lisa promised. Her image flickered and vanished as a massive explosion rocked the lunar base. In orbit, Captain Jake Collins received Johnson's orders. The Dauntless and 12 other ships formed Earth's final line of defense. "This is it," Jake told his crew. "Every minute we hold them back gives Earth a better chance." He looked at the faces of his bridge crew. "It's been an honor serving with you all." The human ships spread out in a defensive pattern. They were hopelessly outnumbered, but each captain knew their mission was not to win but to delay. Selnar ships approaching firing range, Ben Rogers reported. "Their weapons are powering up." "All ships, engage at will," Jake ordered. "Target their command vessels first." The space between Earth and Moon erupted in brilliant flashes as the final battle began. Human ships darted between the larger Selnar vessels, causing whatever damage they could before being destroyed. The Dauntless shuddered as energy blasts struck its shields. Jake held onto his chair as systems failed throughout the ship. "Hull breach on decks 4 through 7, Ben reported. "Weapons at 20%. Jake watched as 2 more human ships exploded. Only 5 remained against over 100 Selnar vessels. "Keep fighting," he ordered. "Every second counts." In the North American hub, Olivia and Paul worked desperately to complete the BAM system's reconfiguration. "Power levels are unstable," Paul warned. "If we push the remaining hubs beyond 80%, they might explode." "We need at least 90% for the BAM to work," Olivia replied. "There's no other choice." Outside, the sound of explosions grew closer as Selnar ground forces landed and began moving toward the hub. Security teams barricaded the entrances, but they wouldn't hold for long. Dr. Wright received word that New Geneva had fallen. The council president was dead, and most of Earth's cities were under attack or in flames. "We're running out of time," Alan told Olivia. "Can you activate the beam?" She looked at the final calculations on her screen. "It's ready, but incredibly risky. The targeting is imprecise with only 3 hubs, and we'll burn out all our systems with this single pulse. If we don't try, Earth falls," Alan said simply. "Do it." Olivia nodded to Paul, who began the activation sequence. Warning alarms blared as the 3 remaining hubs channeled more power than they were designed to handle. "Final targeting lock established," Paul announced. "BAM ready to fire." Through the bunker's few windows, they could see Selnar troops approaching the facility. The last human fighters flew overhead, trying to hold them back. 10 seconds to maximum power," Olivia said. The hub's structure groaned as energy built up in the emitters. 5 seconds. 3, 2, 1. She pressed the activation button. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then a strange, silent pulse rippled outward from Earth. It was invisible to the naked eye, but sensors showed it expanding rapidly into space. In orbit, Jake watched in amazement as the nearest Selnar ships began to change. Their hulls didn't explode or burn. They simply fell apart, disintegrating into clouds of component materials. The effect spread from ship to ship, each massive vessel dissolving into floating particles. "It's working," Ben whispered. Jake stared at the screen. watching as the entire Xelnar fleet transformed from threatening warships into harmless clouds of metal and plastic. The BAM had worked. Earth had just won an impossible war. 1 week after the BAM pulse, Earth began to recover. The damage was extensive. Cities lay in ruins. Millions had died, and the defense grid was completely burned out. But humanity had survived. Captain Jake Collins stood on a hill overlooking the rebuilt landing pad at the North American hub. The Dauntless, barely holding together after the battle, had made an emergency landing here. Now engineers worked day and night to repair it and the few other ships that had survived. "Hard to believe it's over," Ben Rogers said, joining his captain. His arm was in a sling, one of many injuries from their final stand. "Not over," Jake replied. "Just changing. Look there." He pointed to a strange sight: human rescue teams helping injured Xelnar soldiers. When their ships dissolved around them, thousands of Xelnar troops had been left stranded in space. Human vessels had been picking them up for days. "Never thought we'd be saving their lives after they tried to wipe us out," Ben remarked. Jake nodded. "Dr. Wright says it's important we show them we're different, that we don't seek revenge." In New Geneva, or what remained of it, Dr. Wright met with representatives from the Confederation. After 3,000 years of neutrality, they had finally called an emergency council meeting. "The balance of power has shifted dramatically," said the Zentari ambassador, a tall being with silvery skin. "The Xelnar military might is gone. Their technology has been reduced to its most basic elements. And they blame humanity entirely," added the Paulaner delegate, whose 3 eyes blinked nervously. "They demand punishment for what they call an act of unprecedented destruction." Alan smiled tiredly. "We didn't destroy their people, only their weapons. More Xelnar would have died in a conventional war. We chose the path with the least loss of life." In the science wing, Olivia Martinez and Paul Davis worked with a team studying the effects of the BAM pulse. Samples of former Xelnar technology lay on tables, now just piles of basic materials. "The BAM was more selective than we expected," Olivia said, examining the results. "It only affected their military technology. Civilian systems were mostly untouched." Paul nodded. "It recognized the specific frequency of their weapons-grade materials. That's why their ships fell apart, but their life support systems remained functional." "Can we rebuild the defense grid?" asked Samantha, who had joined them. "Eventually," Paul replied. "But I'm working on something better." He showed them diagrams of a new system. "If we modify the BAM technology, we could use it to construct things rather than take them apart. Imagine building bridges or space stations in minutes instead of months." 3 days later, Admiral Johnson's shuttle landed at what remained of Lunar Command. The base was being rebuilt with help from several Confederation species who had secretly admired humanity's resilience. "They're saying that Xelnar have requested peace talks," Lisa's assistant told her as they walked through the construction zone. "After trying to wipe us out." "That's bold," Lisa replied. "They don't have much choice. Their entire society relied on military dominance. Now they need to rebuild everything." In the main conference room of the partially rebuilt Earth Diplomatic Center, Kraz Toll, the Xelnar Supreme Commander, sat across from Dr. Wright. The once proud alien leader looked diminished without his battle armor. "My people require assistance," Kraz Toll said simply. "Our colony worlds cannot sustain themselves without the technology you unmade." Alan studied the alien carefully. "And what do you offer in return?" "Knowledge, resources, a formal apology." Kraz Toll seemed to struggle with the last words. "And a new treaty, one that acknowledges humanity's right to exist in this galaxy." Alan thought about all the lives lost, the colonies destroyed. It would be easy to refuse, to let the Xelnar suffer. But that wasn't the path forward. "We will help you rebuild," he said finally, "but not your weapons. Never your weapons." 1 month later, the official ceremony took place. Representatives from all Confederation species gathered to witness the signing of what became known as the Harmony Accord. The document established new principles for galactic cooperation and explicitly banned the development of extinction-level weapons. As Dr. Wright signed on behalf of humanity, he thought about the strange path that had led here. For 3,000 years, humans had lived in peace. Now, after a brief but devastating war, they had helped create a stronger, more meaningful peace, not based on fear or power, but on mutual respect and cooperation. The 3,000-year peace had ended, but something better had begun.